Day 6, and I am pushing the stroller around again, and it just started raining, so I better do this now before it's too late. And I already recorded 2 videos today earlier when I was out on a run, but they weren't very good and they ended up becoming very personal. So, you know, I think it's good that I recorded them, but I didn't really feel like putting them out on the internet. So instead, I'm going to talk about project management, or product management actually, I think more for solo founders, because I think it's just something I've realized in the past few weeks that it's just so much different than when you're on a team. Like, you don't need, at least I believe, you don't need too much like project management software when you're just one person. It's just gonna overcomplicate everything, and you're just gonna end up spending too much time organizing issues and maintaining a backlog and stuff instead of just making stuff. It's kind of how I feel about it. But anyways, so that's what I wanted to talk about. So previously, when we were multiple people working on Reform, obviously we had a lot of systems, and like Notion, we've used Linear. Yeah, probably we end up just using Notion the most, I guess. And we used GitHub Issues a lot, GitHub pull requests and stuff like that. But so something that I did this week is like I was trying to sort of get a better overview of basically like the state of the product Reform, and kind of being a product manager and trying to figure out what to work on next. And I just didn't like coming back into things as one person now and just have this like giant Notion database with all these pages and, you know, strategies and tables and boards and stuff. It was just kind of overwhelming. So I wanted to start my own system that's sort of just made for me as a solo person. So I did 2 things so far that I think has been really helpful. The first thing I did was I went through my Help Scout, so the support inbox for the past couple months, and everything that was like a real issue or a real ticket, I put into a spreadsheet in Google Sheet, and I categorized it based on what the fix was. So for some things it's a bug fix, some of them it's a new feature, some of them it was documentation. Actually, most of them were just documentation things. So it's like, how do I do this, or how do I do that, or how can you do this weird thing with a PDF file? And it's something I'm never going to build, or at least not anytime soon, but it's something you could do with maybe a Zapier or something. So could I just, you know, document it instead of getting emails about it? And the last one was won't fix, so just something that we're not going to do or even bother. So that gave me a long list in a spreadsheet that I can sort of sort based on what task is involved in the product work. Is it a bug fix, or is it a feature, or is it writing some documentation, or, you know, adding some tooltips or some empty states in the product or something that could be helpful. So that's the one thing I did. The other thing I did is for most of the time in Reform, we've had this feature request form. That's pretty neat. So it's just in the sidebar of the product. We just have a Reform itself. Obviously, Reform uses Reform for a lot of things. So we have this Reform, and people can ask for a feature. And so I exported a CSV from Reform. I think there's almost 200 feature requests in there. And I put them in another sheet in the same spreadsheet, basically, called Reform Product Dev or something like that. So now I have one for like all the issues we get via support, and I have one for all the feature requests we get, and that one I still need to do some maintenance work or some, you know, filtering and tagging and stuff like that. So I think the last thing I sort of need to get into that spreadsheet is just my own ideas, basically, but that should be pretty easy. So I think actually for basically the way I feel about it right now is, as a solo person, it's kind of nice just to think about only having a spreadsheet instead of like all these nested pages in Notion and stuff like that. And I find myself not writing much down when it comes to these like sort of product things before I start working on them. And once I start working on them, I have an open PR and GitHub, and that's a really good place to just drop like links and to-dos and stuff like that. So I'll just keep doing that, I think. Actually, like the feature request form, it's given me some new ideas for Reform, because I kind of wish that it could just stay in Reform and I could just sort of easily process and maintain those feature requests, manage them inside of Reform. And I think giving people more options to do something like that would make, like a feature request form, would make it not just a form, but almost a whole tool for like doing, like a mini app for managing feature requests with the right set of tools. And it would make Reform more of a toolkit or something, or yeah, I don't know, but it gave me some interesting ideas that I kind of want to work on soon, I think, because it kind of annoyed me that I had to put it into a spreadsheet instead of just keeping it in Reform. So anyways, I sort of tried doing the same thing for marketing. I did. Oh, he's unhappy. I'll just stop the video here then.